Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like him. With him we win, he's our champion. With him we can lose, we always win, he's our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like him. With him we win, he's our champion. With him we can lose, we always win, he's our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We always win. You're our champion. Oh. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, let's give it a thanks. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, he's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. He's worthy. Come on, Baruch him, Baruch him. We Baruch Abba Yahuwah this great day, a day of celebration and commemoration, a time of rest. We do appreciate Abba Yahuwah that even now, as we are before you, we're just getting a little rain and the wind is not that bad. So we do appreciate Abba Yahuwah for keeping us throughout the week and throughout the night, allowing us to rest, not wake up with trees falling all over where we are. And we do pray for those that these things have happened to. But we do want to say Baruch Abba Yahuwah for keeping us throughout the night, to allow us to be back at this place, a place of celebration, a place of commemoration, and a place that we can come in and learn. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. We're going to begin with the Baruch of the Torah, and then we're going to read the 10 Commandments. Repeat with me. Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now we have the reading of the 10 Commandments done by Mattathias, and it is so.
And it is so.
Aleph. I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim from the days of slavery. Then you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the mind beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the Abbas upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and show mercy unto thousands of them that are hard me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Data, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mizraim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your Ima as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. One, you shall not murder. Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Yud, neither shall you desire your neighbor's issue, neither shall you cover your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a great voice. And he added no more, and he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so.
Chapter 6 of the Devarim, verses 1 through 18. These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it. that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah is our Savior, Yahuwah is a God. Hear, O Yisrael, Yisrael, Yahuwah our Supreme One, Yahuwah is a God. And you shall ahab Yahuwah your Supreme One with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day, shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall, to bind to the mind, to bind to the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you filled not, wells dug that you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, somebody say, when I'm full.
When I'm full.
Then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies, and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which he swore unto your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let's have another song, please. Excuse me. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul waits on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. I will wait for you, oh Yahuwah, in the beauty of your Ruah. I will worship you, oh Yahuwah, in the beauty of your Ruah. I will wait for you, oh Yahuwah, in the beauty of your Ruah. I will worship you, oh Yahuwah, in the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. You're worthy, you're worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yahuwah, we thirst for you. Come on, we long to be in your presence. My Ruach will wait on you. Almighty Yahuwah. We do appreciate him and we do have him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. Now let us turn our attention to Yahush, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. And we're going to read verse 7 and then we're going to confess verse 8. Verse 7 says, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do, excuse me, according to all of the Torah, which Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Excuse me. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as it is tailored to fit a time of confession. Let us repeat this together. I will not let this scroll of the Torah
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth,
but I shall meditate in it
but I shall meditate in it
day and night,
day and night,
that I may observe to do
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous
For then I shall make my way prosperous
and act wisely.
and act wisely.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely.
And you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely.
And
you shall act wisely. Take your hand, place it over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
to
to wisely.
act wisely.
I endeavor
to
act wisely.
act wisely.
I endeavor
to
act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. I endeavor to act wisely. And it is so.
And it is so.
Mishlei 15:8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Romaiah 14:17-18, for the kingdom of Yahuwah is not meat and drink, but uprightness and shalom and joy in the Ruach HaKodesh. For he that in these things serve Yahush is acceptable to Yahuwah and approved of men. Mishlei 3:4, so shall you find great esteem, excuse me, and higher and good and great understanding and high esteem in the sight or judgment of Yahuwah and man, and it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 34:15, the eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. The upright cry, verse 17, and Yahuwah heareth and delivereth them out of all their troubles. Acts 1:8, Amasa 1:8, but we shall receive power after that. The Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Shamaron and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the instructions of Abba Yahuwah, and he doth meditate upon it day and night. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Ibrahim 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have another song, please.
For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, Yahuwah, our great power, we sing the highest praise to you. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. For who you are, you are our great power. We sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, you are our great power. We sing the highest praise to you. For who you are our great power. We sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, you are our great power. We sing the highest praise to you. For who you are, you are our great power. We sing the highest praise to you. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, we sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Come on, Bruce. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your word and your word and your word. And he's worthy of all praise. He's worthy of all esteem. He's worthy of every song. He is worthy. Worthy, worthy, worthy is our Savior. Ayah 33:4. The Ruach Kodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Somebody say he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Say it again. He is a life giver.
He is a life giver.
Micah 3:8, for truly I am full of power by the Ruach Kodesh of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, and to Yashrael his sin. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yehukin and Aleph 5:4-5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world? But he that believeth that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah. Very important, because many people are dropping out saying that Yahush does not exist. Many people are stopping believing in him. And you must understand, this is very important for us, because this is a question.
That's right.
And that question has been posed before the very foundation of the world. Once again, Yehukin and Aleph 5:5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world system, the world's way of thinking, the world's way of processing and doing things. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our what? Belief. Who is he that believeth, or who is he that overcometh the world? We can't overcome this world system and its lies and all of its misinterpretation and all of its fallacies, except we do what? Believe that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah.
That's right.
That's the only way we're going to be able to overcome this world and its worldly system. Yehukin and Aleph 2, 5, and 6. But whoever keeps his Torah, truly the Ahab of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk as he walked. If we're going to please Yahuwah, it is important and imperative that we learn from the perfect example. Yes. And that is Yahush, our Mashiach. That's the only way we're going to learn how to live and how to truly be an example and truly how to overcome this world system. Okay. Believing in Yahush and then following his example that he has laid out for us. Okay. Because remember, we are his disciples. That's who we are. We are his disciples. And I know you have many that believe in only the first covenant, but let me tell you something. Yahush came to complete.
That's right.
He came to complete, to fulfill
right.
the covenant. That doesn't mean that the covenant has been done away with.
Right.
It opened and gives us access to the renewed covenant, which many will call the new covenant.
Right.
It's a renewed covenant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we understand these things. Hold on to our belief and hold on to what he's given unto us, because we can't make it without it.
Right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Yehukin and Moshe 11:24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and you shall have them. Very important for us to understand. And I want to illustrate this as well. Every now and then, excuse me, I will illustrate this. And it comes from Luke 22 and 31 and 32. When Yahush speaks unto Simon, which is Kepha, he says, Simon, Simon, behold, Shaitan hath desired to have you, to sift you as wheat. He said, but I have prayed for thee that thy belief fail not. Now let me show you what that means, the interpreted form of that. When belief is broken down, the foundation of our walk, our Ruach life, gives way, and the entire structure of our experience fails.
Right.
Our experience with Yahuwah fails. This is why it is important that we understand, excuse me, my voice, excuse me, y'all. It's important that we understand that the enemy desires to railroad and to destroy our belief in Yahush, our Mashiach. He desires to destroy the very fabric, the very foundation of our belief in him. Now, this is not the teaching on today, but this is important because this is a time of exhortation, right. An exhortation to praise, but also an exhortation to hold on and to stand. Because we have many voices and many things that's being promoted as truth. So you got to know truth. Yahush says, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow.
That's right.
It's important that we understand these principles. But when we fail to rely and really believe and have confidence in the writings, this is when our structure and our experience with him begins to become null and void.
That's right.
And I don't know about you, but I don't want my experience with him to become null and void.
That's right.
It takes chipping away, and this is what erroneous teachings and doctrines do. It chips away at the foundation. It chips away. And this is why we can't allow any and everything to penetrate our ruach. You can't just let anything and everything come across your plate.
Right.
Very important that we understand that. And so it's important that we understand that we don't allow this to happen. Kepha bet 1 and 5. And besides this, he declares, giving diligence add to your belief virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and knowledge temperance. And it goes on to tell us to temperance we're to add. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. This, find that for me real quick. Kepha chapter 2, Kepha bet 1 and 5. So I can finish this out. Find that for me, please. I have it in my notes. I don't have it with me. Kepha Bet 1 and 5. I need my other Bible right here too. 1 and 5. Kepha Bet 1 and 5, which is Peter 1 and 5. My black one. Peter. You got it? Read it for me. Finish it out.
Kepha Bet, chapter 1, verse 5, coming from the NIV. For this very reason, make every effort, add to your belief greatness, and to greatness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance kodesh, and to kodesh brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, it will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Mashiach Yahush. And it is so.
And it is so. Read that again for me, please.
For this very reason, make every effort, add to your belief greatness, and to greatness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance kodesh, and to kodesh brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness aha. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, it will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our power in Yahush Mashiach.
And it is so. It'll keep us and it'll help us to move forward. And it is important and it is so that we understand all of the writings. Are y'all following me? Very important. Once again, when belief is broken down, the foundations of life in the Ruach gives way. And the entire structure of our experience fails. Our experience with Abba Yahuwah fails. We don't want to fail. We don't want to fall. We want to continue to persevere. We want to continue to hold fast.
That's right.
Are y'all following me? Very important for us to understand these things. So it's important that we, as the children of power, continue to move forward and continue to allow ourselves to grow, to develop, and to mature in the very things that He has given unto us as His children. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, just something to encourage us so that we can maintain our walk in Him and not give way. Once again, that is a question. It is a question. And in that question, it's important that we hold fast. And it is so very important that we hold fast to His truth for our lives. All right, at this time, we're going to do our declaration. And then from our declaration, our affirmations, and then we're going to seal it. We're going to have another song after our declaration of shalom and healing during this time of our class, our Shabbat class. One thing that I've learned about Shabbat, it gives us time to rest and it gives us time to regroup.
That's right.
It's a celebration. It's a commemoration. It is a time that we are able to regather or gather ourselves again. How do we do that? By walking in complete and total compliance to His instructions for our lives.
That's right.
Very important for us to understand. Once again, you have to understand the enemy's desire and his goal is to destroy our foundation of belief. It is his desire to destroy our belief in the instructions of Abba Yahuwah that have been manifested and worked out through Yahush our Mashiach.
Right.
Well, He is the perfect example for us to follow. Once again, it's important that we continue to follow the life and continue to follow His instructions. And when we fail to do that, that's when our life will begin to shift and things will begin to become very hard for us. One thing about walking in truth and walking in complete obedience is that you begin to see change. And that's what we want to see change. We want to see change in every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of our lives. So it's very important that we understand these things. All right, we're going to do our declaration. Repeat with me, Abba Yahuwah.
Abba Yahuwah.
In the name of Yahush.
In the name of Yahush.
Our Mashiach.
Our Mashiach.
We subdue ignorance.
We subdue ignorance.
With Torah knowledge.
With Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge.
And through this knowledge.
Of Torah truth.
Of Torah truth.
We claim healing.
We claim healing.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Deliverance.
Deliverance.
And salvation.
And salvation.
We decree.
We decree.
Torah truth.
Torah truth.
In the lives.
In the lives.
Of your people.
Of your people.
Our people. people?
Our people.
Yashrael.
Yasharal.
We unite.
We unite.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Not to fight.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
Each other.
But the enemy
But the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
I decree a time of rest, shalom, and truth in Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right, let us have a song. Let us have a song. Come on, Baruch him, Baruch him. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, let's have our song, please. Let's do How Great. How great is Yahuwah? Sing how great is Yahuwah? Oh, sing how great is Yahuwah? Come on, sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah? Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, sing how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise.
and our hearts to sing. How great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. Sing with me, how great is Yahuwah. Oh, see how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. And you are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise. And our hearts will sing. Oh, how great is Yahuwah. Singing, oh, how great is Yahuwah. see how great, how great, how great, how great is Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name.
your name. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will Baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yehovah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yehovah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will Baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yehovah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yehovah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will Baruch your name. 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 Come on, Baruch him, Baruch him. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Worthy, worthy, worthy is our King. Come on, Baruch him, Baruch him. He's worthy of all praise. He's worthy of all esteem. He's worthy, he's worthy. Hallelujah. At this time, let us do our affirmations, and then we're going to seal this time with the writings. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Repeat with me. I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibrim.
I am Ibrim.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibrim.
I am Ibrim.
I have the life and nature of Yahuwah
I have the life and nature of Yahuwah
in my Ruach.
in my Ruach.
That life is the Torah
That life is the Torah
of Yashrael.
of Yahshua.
I purpose to walk in the Torah of life.
I purpose to walk in the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah,
his son,
his son,
Yahush,
Yahush,
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's Ahab is in me.
Yahuwah's Ahab is in me.
Yahuwah's power is in me.
Yahuwah's power is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching me.
He is leading me.
He is leading me.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach Kodesh
The Ruach Kodesh
of Yahuwah in me
of Yahuwah in me
is leading me.
is leading me.
I'll follow
I'll follow
her leading.
her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah,
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let us at this time turn our attention to the writings of Tehillim 19 and 15. Let us bow before our King as we recite this in unison. May the utterance of my mouth,
May the utterance of my mouth,
come on, say it like you mean it. May the utterance of my mouth
may the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock,
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock,
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 15, and it is so.
And it is so.
You may be seated in his presence. Let us turn our attention to the scroll of the Midbar, and we're going to go to chapter 30, And this theme for this Shabbat is Matat, which means tribes. It means tribes. So we're going to be talking about the tribes on today and vowels. Vowels on today as well. So we want to begin with verse 1. I'm going to start with verse 1. And it is so. Let's read 8 verses, please.
And Moshe spoke unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Yasharal, saying, This is the thing which Yahuwah has commanded. If a man vow a vow unto Yahuwah, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. If a woman also vow a vow unto Yahuwah, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's bed in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and her bond wherewith she has bound her soul, and her father shall hold his shalom at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she has bound her soul shall stand. But if her father disallow her in the day that he hears not any of her vows, or of her bonds, wherewith she has bound her soul, shall stand, and Yahuwah shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. And if she had an older husband, when she vowed, or uttered anything out of her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his shalom at her in the day that he heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband disallow her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she bound her soul of none effect, and Yahuwah shall forgive her. And it is so.
And it is so. All right. Now let's look at this. This is one of those lessons that it is very important that we find ourselves really being attentive to what's being said and really be sensitive to the Ruach. And the reason I'm saying that is because this chapter and these verses have been taken out of context. Now, somebody will say, well, you can't come and change what it says. I'm not about to change what it says. But what I am about to do is bring some clarity. Because a lot of times what a lot of the Akodi and even many of our ox have feared is that if I get with someone and I make a vow and they disannul it, well, we're going to talk about the reason why it would be annulled, why it would be reversed. So let's look at first what Moshe is saying, and we're going to address this on today to bring clarity so that we can walk in unity and be a cop. Very important. Can you lighten that up a little bit? Very important for us to understand. Are y'all following me today?
Yes.
All right. We're going to look at it. Okay. And Moshe spoke unto the heads of the tribes of the children of Yasharal, saying, This is the thing which Yahuwah hath commanded. When a man voweth a vow unto Yahuwah, or sweareth an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. Whenever you make a commitment or a vow unto who? Yahuwah, or you sweareth an oath, it is important and imperative that you maintain it. Why? Because the moment you put his name in it, you are bound to it. Remember in chapter 6 of Devarim, and he tells us about in that, 14 or 15th verse, he says, swear by no other name but by the name of who? Yahuwah. When you make that vow or that oath and you involve his name, you have basically said it's a done deal. No matter what happens, I am going to comply. I'm going to keep this vow and this oath. because I have just put the seal, are you understanding me, that can never be broken, and that is the name of Yahuwah. Very important for us to understand that. Then he goes on to say in this, excuse me, in verse 4, and also when a woman voweth a vow unto Yahuwah and bindeth herself by a bound, being in her Abba's house in her youth. Somebody say in her youth.
In her youth.
This is important to understand because sometimes we overlook that word, what? Youth. Now let's see in each rendering. All right, I read it in the Torah portions. Now I'm going to read it also in the Mitzarim. I'm going to read it in the Leadership Bible, and then I'm going to read it over here out of the Netzarim version. And the reason I want to do this so that we can understand and have clarity. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right, that's verse 4, right? Yeah, 3. Verse 3. Or if an Asha vows a vow to Yahuwah and binds herself by some agreement while in her Abba's house in her what? Youth. Over here, same thing. In her youth. Youth meaning that she is under age. She is not really mature enough to make a vow unto Yahuwah. This is why it can be reversed. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Important for us to understand that. Now listen, he speaks unto the heads of the tribes. This legislation was not communicated to the people in general because it contains the law that the Abba had the right to declare void certain vows of his daughter, and the husband those of his wife. This knowledge might have caused them to belittle the sanctuary or the sanctity of the vow. Now you have to understand why it is important that we understand. Many may not agree with what's going to be said today, but the bottom line is it's in the writings. Are y'all following me? Now let's proceed. Let's read on to verse 5. And her Abba heareth her vow or her bond, wherewith she hath bound her soul, and her Abba holdeth his shalom at her. Then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. But if her Abba disallows her in the day that he heareth, none of her vows or of her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. And Yahuwah will forgive her because her Abba disallowed her. Are you understanding me? Now, once again, let's look in a little further. Excuse me. Now, once again, it's important to understand. Let's go back. He shall not break his word or his vow. Renders, he shall not delay the fulfillment of his word, referring the phrase, excuse me, unto the vow, unto Yahuwah. I think it's this brother trying to mess with my throat. Y'all praying for me?
Yes.
Important. All right. Now, once again, he shall not break his vow. In other words, he shall not delay it. If you vow to do something, don't put it off to do it a year later. Don't put it off to do it 4 or 5 months from today. If you vowed the vow, excuse me. If you vow the vow, then do it in an appropriate time. Do not defer to pay that vow. If you made it, pay it. It is imperative. This is how we end up getting in trouble with Yahuwah, because we make vows and then we put them off, thinking we have all the time in the world. Well, you have to understand, when you make that vow, you need to pay that vow right then and there. Whether it is something that you're going to give, whether it's a monetary vow or it is a vow of your words, of people's expectation of you, you need to pay that vow immediately. Excuse me. Now, let's look at the vow with the young lady. The young lady or the one in her youth. Being in her Abba's house, that means under her Abba's control, even if she does not live in his house. Now you have to understand, many people believe that that is a grown woman. Are y'all following me?
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody would say, but I thought that was a grown woman. Now, let's understand. Anytime you make a vow, you don't make a vow out of your emotions. You don't make a vow just because. You make it because you are what? Sound and of solid mind, and you are mature. And whatever vow you make, you're making it based upon the knowledge that you have. Are you following me? This is very important for us to understand, because once again, this is what has caused and continues to cause many to have problems, and this is why many don't want to marry, because they feel like, or even want to be under certain ones, because they feel like, well, if I'm a woman, I can't make a vow. It didn't say you couldn't make a vow. Look at the stipulations of the vow being changed. The reason a vow can be changed is because of what the vow contains, or what the bond contains. Now, being in her Abba's house, he has a right, even if she's not there. Now listen, in her youth, that is the first stage of womanhood, which is between 12 and 12 and a half years of age. Now, many would, frown at that and be like, oh, that's a little too young. But that's the age. That's the time they would come together. That's around the age. You have to understand, a young lady begins to ovulate around 12. In other words, that's the moment her body is able to what? Produce and to bring forth. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
I didn't make it up. I'm just a teacher.
Okay.
So around 12 and a half, she's already in the stages of what? Womanhood. Stages. She's not a full-grown woman yet, but she's coming of age and she's walking into maturity. And so this is why it is important that we understand the ramifications of the vows being able to be annulled. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, once again, and excuse me, between 12 and 12 and a half years of age. Under 12 years, she is regarded as a minor, and her vow is null and void, except when she is 11 years and 1 day old and understands the significance of the vow. It's sad, but you have a lot of grown women past that in their teens, or not, I won't say teens, but in their later teens, early 20s, and mature, but don't understand the ramifications and significance of vows.
That's right.
And binding yourself to something. So it starts early. Because you can understand, and being the age that I am now, and being that young, I can understand why it is important that there was supervision when it came to vows. See, because you got now, and I'm just going to take this sidebar, you have now in our day and time, 12-year-old girls, even younger, saying, I'm not going to be a girl, I'm going to be a boy. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
I'm not getting married. I'm not having any children. I don't want to be married. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a firefighter. I'm going to be a jet. I'm going to be a pilot. I can get my mouth to work. I'm going to be all these things. But never says I'm going to be a Torah believer. I'm going to connect. I'm going to unite. I'm going to bond with an Ibram covenant believer. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That age, I'm going to marry me a European. Y'all listening to me?
Yes.
I'm going to be celibate. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to go through that. I'm only going to have one child. I'm not going to have any more than one. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
I vowed this. I vowed to do this. This is the reason why there was supervision. And this is why the Abba could, and even the husband could come in and reverse the vow because of the vows that would be made. Now, you have to understand, once again, when somebody would say, why would somebody make that kind of vow? You got to understand things being seen and then just the enemy being the enemy. So it's important that we understand. And so somebody would say, well, what about a woman that's 20 years old? Absolutely. If you were sitting up here and you are you have an Abba or even a leader that says, look, you get to run in your mouth talking about, well, I vow I'm never going to get married. I'm just going to be celibate and I'm going to live as Rabbi Shaul. First of all, understand how he lived, because he did have a family. He had a family. But history only records bits and pieces of what happened. According to some theologians, his Isha and his children were killed. But in order to be a Philistine, you had to be married. Not a Philistine, a Pharisee. I'm sorry, y'all. A Pharisee. So it's important that we understand these things. Once again, the problem comes in is when we read, and the first thing we look at is he can reverse my vow. But you don't look at what is the ramifications for that. Being youth, a youth. And if you are 20 or 30 or even 50 or 60 and you're still acting immature, of course your Abba has a right to change your vow. Of course, if you're married, your husband has a right to change your vow. Because if you sit up there and say, I'm only going to have one child, you've married a man that may want 6 or 7. But you vowed to Yahuwah, I'm going to change this. Let me show you. Thank you, Yahuwah. In Shamu, Aleph, when we read about Hannah, what was her vow to Yahuwah? To have a son and to do what? To offer him to the tabernacle. Her husband or her Ish did not know that, did not change that vow, did he? Because it was a vow that was in line. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't, I'm going to have this child and I'm going to raise him and he's going to be right by my side. This was something that followed in line because what? She was actually putting him in the position that his Abba was in to serve in what? The temple. So it's important that we understand. Are you following me?
Yes.
Okay. Important that we understand what was taking place. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. And this is why it is important, very important as women, that as Ishas, that we be careful with our mouths and don't make vows hastily. Don't make vows off of the top of our heads or make vows out of our emotions because we are disgruntled with the world and everybody around us. I vow he ain't going to touch me ever again. Well, he can turn around and he can annul that vow. And guess what? And Yahuwah will esteem it because it's an immature, reckless vow. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important that we understand this. And this is why the Abba, her Abba had control to ensure that these things would be done right. Because can you imagine what a community would be like if you had young women in their youth making all these kind of vows, reckless vows? We already see what it's doing. So it's important that we understand the reason why it was given credence and why this was done, so that these things could not be brought forth. Now, once again, very important that we understand, immature people will say things out of certain situations.
Right.
And so because you have to understand, and it wasn't just for the women, it was also for the men, that you have to keep your vow.
Right.
So if you got all this stuff going on and people just throwing vows out there and people doing stuff, it would be chaotic. And this is why you have to understand, anytime Abba Yahuwah set anything in motion, is because there was a need for it. There was a need for it. Now, once again, this is why. Now, above the age of 12 and a half years, she is already in full womanhood, and her father no longer has the power of annulling her vows when she is older. But watch this. Now, if she is married, it falls under, or it falls into the hands of her Ish. And if she is single, watch this. If she's single, then her vow stands until she's married. Are y'all following?
Yes.
All right. Now, once again, and her father heareth, verse 5, her vow or her bond wherewith she had bound her soul, and her father or her Abba holdeth his shalom at her, that all her vows shall stand. And every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. It stands if he does not open his mouth. It stands. Because that means he's given her the approval, and because it is to be approved.
That's right.
Are y'all following?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand this. All right, now, verse 6 says, But if her Abba disallow her spirit, none of her or her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand, and Yahuwah will forgive her, because her father disallowed her. Now it's important that you understand. If it's, you have to understand the gravity of this. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Of this, you have to understand the impact that this could have, not just on her life, but on the lives of those around her. For her to go and make a vow and forgives her. Whereas he steps in and that she does not fall into harm's way. Why? Because of her mouth. This is why we have to be careful with our mouths. Very careful. That says that a lot of things at that time was going on, and women were making vows that needed to be put in check. Vowel, vowel, vowels, vowels. VOW. Right. So it's important that we understand that he was given this to protect her. To protect her. He was able to do this to protect her. And a husband or an ish that truly does ahab his isha will do the same thing. You won't allow the person you ahab to speak something and cause them to fall into major trouble with Abba Yahuwah. What, for instance, I will never ever buy myself, never ever do this. I will never do that. I will never do this. And I promise I won't do this. And I vow to do this. And I vow. And you understand, if it's going contrary in check, guess what? You're going to suffer consequences behind it. You're going to suffer the consequences. Now 7 says, and if she be married to a ish, while her vow are upon her, or the clear utterance of her lips, wherewith she had bound her soul, and her husband hear it. Now remember now, let's watch this. If the Abba approves of it, but then the ish hears it, and he listens, and he does not approve of it, he has the right to do what? To disallow it. Because if she goes into this marriage or to this unity and she carries that over and says, well, I'm not going to have any, I'm going to have one child and I'm going to not do this and I'm not going to do that and I'm not going to do this and I made this vow and I bound myself to this. I'm not going to do it. And he hears it and he says, oh, no, this is not right. We're going to change this. Because you have to remember, everything we do, it is supposed to breed unity. It is supposed to breed productivity. If it does not, we will find ourselves missing it. Are you following me? This has nothing. Look, a lot of time when we read that and we heard it, we felt like, oh my, anything I say is going to go against it. No, if you vow to pray 3 times a day, do you think your ish is going to have an effect? No. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand why these things could be or unknown. To be done that is because of what it carried. If she said, I'm going to support you every time you go to the tabernacle, to the temple, he's not going to tell her you can't do that. Because that benefits him.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
The only reason why it can be changed is because it is a direct conflict with the structure in which Yahuwah has given unto us as his people.
Right.
This is why he could turn around and say, oh, no, that's not going to work. No, that's not going to work. That's wrong. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why it could be changed. Now, verse 8 says, once again, and her husband or her ish hear it, whatsoever day it be that he heareth it, and hold his shalom at her, then her vows shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. Now, once again, you have two, where he can change it and where he can approve it. The reason why it is approved is because it's not a direct conflict against truth. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now, once again, we gotta think in the ramifications and in the structure of Yahuwah's instructions for our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Many a times, the first thing we think of is the negative first.
Right.
Well, what if I vow, to study? He gonna tell me no? Now, once again, according to Timotheus, is it 3 and 15, I believe it is. Timotheus bet 3 and 15. If it's not, it's 1 and 15. 1 Timothy 3 and 15. Where he says, study to show thyself approved unto Abba Yahuwah, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Bet 2 and 15. 2 and 15. Chapter 2, verse 15. I was off. Chapter 2, verse 15. Now, he said study. That means everybody is required to do what? Study. Say it again. Everybody is required to do what? Study. We are to study. So once again, the first thing that sometimes pops up is the negative that will fall out. Why? Because the first thing we begin to think about, not all of them. So when I say this, don't think I'm slamming anybody. We think about the camps. Because many of them do not believe women are supposed to study. They don't believe women are supposed to do anything. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And not just camps, but you have other people that have that mindset because of their misinterpretation of Rabbi Shaul's writings,
Right.
that women are not supposed to do anything. Right. But you got to remember, when he bought Yashrael out, he bought everybody out, not just the men. He brought the women out, including,
Right.
and the children. So everybody was brought out. Mm-hmm. So once again, very important for us to understand what is being said here and why it's being said. And then you have to remember all the stuff that they had gone through, the different things they had endured. Remember, we read in about Phineas in Midbar chapter 25 all the way to chapter 29. We find out what Phineas did. The men were being led astray, and they were being led to away by the Moabite women. And they were led to do things that were an abomination to the children of Yashrael, because they knew this is what they were not supposed to do. Now, mind you, this is what the men were doing. Are you following me? Yes. Now, once again, the importance of understanding why these things were taking place is because there was a lot of things that were seen at that time. Yes. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Yes.
You are married, and you see your spouse or another person's spouse fall prey to a Moabitess woman. Now, you see all these things that happen. The first thing that comes to mind is, if you are a woman or an ish at that time, an isha at that time, I'm not going to go through that no more. So I vow to not let myself get into this.
Right.
I vow not to let myself get into this. I'm not going to follow that trend. So this is why we can see why these things were put in place. Because you had those say, I won't get into this. I won't follow up on that. I'm not going to let this be my downfall. Because remember, they're people just like we are. They're human, and we're human just like we are. So you have to understand, nobody wants to be hurt, and nobody wants to be brought into something that's going to devastate their lives. So you're thinking at this time, what vow could be made that would need to be disallowed? Once again, let's think beyond what we've seen on the surface. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be mistreated. So what would you do? You go in and vow, I will never give myself totally and completely. and you're vowing this. Now, mind you, this is in your daily routine of prayer, and your ish walks by and hears it, and he says, wait a minute. Let's change this. We can't do this, because how can we be a God if we have issues and we have things in between us? See, because the first thing people think about, well, she ain't gonna be teaching because I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. First of all, we don't call ourselves to this. Yahuwah does.
Right.
So that's not one that you're in prayer time vowing. In prayer time and in your time of devotion to Yahuwah, you're going to be saying other things that can be heard. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
When Hannah was in the temple, Eli heard her and he thought she was drunk. But when he was able to hear, he did not change or disallow her vow. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
To Yahuwah. So it depends on what the vow is that determines whether it can be disallowed or approved. If it's going to build, then it'll be approved.
That's right.
If it's going to tear down, then of course it's going to be disallowed. Important for us to understand this. Now understand, we're talking about the Isha and the, because if an Ankh made a vow, he could not delay that vow. So you got to remember, we're bringing this together because unity, and watch this, and order has to be put in, discipline has to be put in place. So chaos and there is no this to get done. This is important for us to understand. So there's time for certain things. Excuse me. Before we utter anything out of our mouths, we will ponder our words.
Right.
We will give thought to our words. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important, so that we're not running around saying and doing things that will cause us problems and cause dissension in our homes or within the ranks. Now listen, he says, once again, and Yahuwah will forgive her. Verse 9. That last statement is important for us to understand, and Yahuwah will forgive her. That means that she is uttering something out of her mouth that she can be in trouble because of.
Right.
It is something that she is saying that can put her into jeopardy. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, I put it like this. There are times in our lives, and I'm speaking right now to the Ishas or to the women, where we can be silly. And that's just really, I'm just being real. Where we can get to a point to where we start making decisions and choices sometimes based off of our anger or our emotions, or based off of somebody else's experience. Now we start getting into this and we start saying, well, I ain't gonna let that happen to me either. Honey, I vow never to let that happen to me. I vow never, I will wait till I'm 105. And in your waiting, you don't understand what could happen between that time and now. Right. Are you following me?
Yes.
So that's why it's important. And then what's important too is for the Abba and the Ish to be in truth and have the heart and the mind of Yahuwah to do what's right.
Right.
Now, once again, if they're not in truth, you can't expect them to do right no way.
Right.
If they're not in truth. But this is talking about those of us that are walking in truth and we understand vows. You understand you cannot just put your mouth out there. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
When I was younger, before I came into truth, I had made a vow that I would never have children, and that I would go into the Air Force and be I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to fly jets. I did. And I made that vow. But when I got into Christianity, things changed. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Things changed. And so once again, it's important that we understand that you can't make reckless and careless vows.
Right.
You can't do it because it does not. It will never be approved of Yahuwah, and it does not bring unity. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now we're going to look at verse 10. But the vow of a widow or of her that is divorced, even everything wherewith she hath bound her soul, shall stand against her. And if a woman vowed in her husband's house or bond her soul by a bond with an oath. And her husband heard it, and held his peace at her, and disallowed her not. Even all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her ish make them void in the day that he heareth them, then whatsoever proceedeth out of her lips, whether it were her vows or the bond of her soul, shall not stand. Her husband hath made them void, and Yahuwah will forgive her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul, her husband may let it stand, or her husband make it void. Now, once again, very important for us to understand the ramifications of why these things can be so. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
Now, very important. Now, if she be married to a ish, once again, very important that she does not say anything to annul what is being said. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Now, the clear utterance of her lips, that is her oath as distinct from a vow, shall stand against her, because she is under the control of neither husband nor her ish. If a woman vowed in her husband's house, this refers to a woman who is married as distinct from betrothed. In other words, she's married. So now, remember, you're one, no longer twain, or no longer two, but you're one. So you can't go and make vows, and you can't go and do things that are not the will of Yahuwah. Are y'all following?
Yes.
So once again, this is why it's important whenever you prepare to marry, you have to make sure that the person you're going to marry, that you're walking in agreement. Because if you're not in agreement, you're going to have all kinds of problems.
Yes.
Because nowadays, in the time we live in, you have women with the mentality, I don't cook, I don't clean, don't expect me to be no babysitter, don't expect me to do all this because I'm not, that's just not who I am. Now you have to understand, that is something that was taught. That's a learned behavior. That's something that was taught. That's not the way we are. We are people that know how to take care of our own. We know how to take care of a home. We know how to make a house a home. We know how to take a car and make it a home. We know how to take an extended room and make it a house, make it a home. Are you following? We know how to make boxes a home. So the thing of it is what we have been taught that changes us and makes us believe there are certain things we can't do. You know, I ain't living with no man that can't give me, everything and everything. Once again, you have to hear, these are some of the things that vows people make. If he can't give me this, that, if he can't provide me this, that, and the other, then I won't be with him. And this is some of the things that have been planted in the ears and in the hearts of many of our people. And so many women go without because the mentality and the standard, and I'm not saying don't have a standard, because all of us should. All of us should have a standard. If you know you're with somebody that has the ability to do better, then you provoke them, you push them, not harass them, but you push them in a positive way to do better.
Right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
You ahab them, and you set the atmosphere for them to do better.
Right.
And vice versa. But once again, we have to understand what is being said here. You can't go in and like I say, have opposite understandings and opposite desires.
That's right.
And opposite opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once again, everybody says, well, everybody has an opinion. That is true to a degree.
Okay.
Because one thing you have to understand, your opinion is very important, because if your opinion is contrary to what you're saying, then you have to question, well, why, if that's your opinion, then why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Are you understanding? Because your opinion is steeped into your feelings and in your belief.
Okay.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's very important for us to understand that. So once again, this is truly important for us to understand. And for women that want to be married, and for men that want to marry, it's important that you understand. Are you following me?
Yes.
You just don't annul a person's vow. And then you just don't make a vow. Because you got some folk that'll be do it just for the purpose of strife. Thank you. Well, I'm going to make this vow just for strife's sake. Well, I'm going to disallow this vow for strife's sake. You can't do that. You can't do that. So it's important that we understand. Very important that we understand. All right, once again, and so you cannot. Now, to afflict the soul, only vows involving the deprivation of the necessities of life can be annulled by the husband. The rabbis, basing their deduction on the phrase between a man and his ish, extended the husband's power to annul also such vows as would interfere with the marital relationship, as I said before. You don't go in making vows, and then vows, well, I'm gonna fast 30 days and 30 nights, 40 days and 40 nights. That means that now you put yourself in a position to deny your ish. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Of that what is supposed to be available. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So you have to understand, once again, what's in the confinement of these being able to be annulled, and then things that can hurt. Are you following me? Yes. Well, I'm not going to ever put this on. I'm not going to ever use that. No, this is to help you. This is not going to kill you. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand, especially for women that are wanting to have children. And then even if a woman is pregnant, well, I'm never going to do this, and I'm never going to take that, and I'm never going to take this. You put yourself in danger, and you put your child in danger. So understand what's being said here. There's a lot of positive. All of it is positive. Are you following me?
Yes.
It is how we look at it and how we approach it that makes it look so negative. And then when you see brothers on there that come with this harsh approach, the first thing women say is, well, I'm not going to give that brother because he can make null and void my vow. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But you have to understand, you get with one that is real and sincere and true. He's not going to know what is true. He's only going to know what is dangerous and harmful to you and also to him.
That's right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. So I want to make sure we had clarity in that, so that we won't, go around thinking, oh no, I ain't married, because we look at the example sometimes. And I'm not trying to stay on it long, but I want us to understand, because sometimes, once again, this chapter and these verses have been truly misinterpreted, misused, yes, abused, and have caused women to believe that, I can't be a person, I can't make a vow to Yahuwah. But you have to understand, once again, they allowed that to go through. And that which needed to be vetoed and annulled was. And at the end, you remember that latter part. Yahuwah will forgive. In other words, forgive being silly and foolish. We're daughters of Yashral. So that we understand we just can't put anything out there. And we just do anything. It has to be done in a correct manner. And this is why he had to speak to all of Yashral, so that they could understand you can't just do any and everything. Because remember, we are what? We are separate. We are a set apart people. So we can't do everything they do and how they do it. Very important. All right, let's read verses 15, 17, and then go into chapter 31. And let's read to verse 5.
Verse 15. If, however, he buys them sometime after he hears about them, then he is responsible for her gift.
Mm-hmm.
These are the regulations Yahuwah gave Moshe concerning relationships between a man and his Isha, and between an Abba and his young daughter still living in his house. Chapter 31, starting verse 9. Yahuwah said to Moshe, take vengeance on the Midianites for the Yashroelites. After that you will be gathered to your people. So Moshe said to the people, arm some of your men to go to war against the Midianites, and to carry out vengeance on them. Send into battle 1,000 men from each of the tribes of Yasharal. So 12,000 men armed for battle, 1,000 from each tribe, were supplied from the clans of Yasharal. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, that latter part, may it stand or her ish may make it void. Verse 15. But if her ish altogether hold his shalom at her from day to day, then he causeth all her vows to stand, or all her bonds which are upon her. He hath let them stand because he held his shalom at her in the day that he heard them. Now, once again, it could be done on the day it was made. He could not go back a week later and say, no, I do this. No, it had to be done on the day. It's just like trying to send mail. In order for that mail to be stopped, you can't mail it out.
Right.
You stop it right then and there. You can't go running and, well, I got to get that mail back. By that time, it's already in the system, and it's already moving and doing what it's supposed to do, or go where it's been sent to go. So once again, it had to be done on that day, the moment it was heard.
Right.
The moment it was heard, that's when it could be done. Now, verse 16. But if he shall make them null and void after he hath heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. These are the statutes which Yahuwah commanded Moshe between a man and his Isha, between an Abba and his daughter being in her youth in her Abba's house. Once again, look at what is being stated in her youth, where she is immature and she does not understand. But once you're old enough to understand a vow, you are going to be held accountable for it. Are y'all understanding me?
Yes.
Once again, it is structured and it is set up in this manner. So it's important that we understand that. Now, once again, if he altogether holds his shalom, by his silence he has regarded as having consented to her vow. After that he hath heard them, that is after the day he has heard them, because he can only annul her vows on the same day as they are made. Then he shall bear her iniquity. If he forces her to break her vow, or misleads her to believe that her vow has been nullified, then he will bear it. Are you understanding me? In other words, if it's one that's well and he forces her, he's going to bear that iniquity. So it's important that we understand that. Very important that we understand that. Because remember, we serve an awesome Savior. And he ahabs upright ruling and what? Righteous justice. Or upright justice. So he's not going to put it in there and then not uphold it himself. Important for us to understand that. Now listen. Now once all this was done, and it says being in her youth, in the first stage of womanhood. So this is in the first stage of womanhood. He's able to do this. This is important for us to understand because this is the process and the molding and the shaping of her life. Once again, if we look at society now, look at some of the things that some young girls say at the age they are. I'm gonna be a boy. And guess what? They do it. And even if they have an Abba in the house, they still do it. This is why we have to be in truth. In truth. You watch how they're disrespectful, disobedient, but when you have that structure in there, are you following me?
Yes.
Very important to have structure in there. Now somebody would say, well, why can't the women do it? Well, he didn't put it in there for the women to do it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Once again, what he set in motion, we have to abide by it. And long as the Abba is walking in truth, it's going to be truth and it's going to be right. It's going to be right. But at 12 is the age that they are shaped and molded. And this is that time. So once again, remember the age, 12 years, is because this is the stage of womanhood. Now, once again, many people would say, but they still babies. That's what we say they were. They were not babies. Are you following me?
Yes.
They were young ladies. And this was their the stage of womanhood. The reason why we see it now, and once again, is because look at what society has given unto us. And if you look at some of these ladies, 12 and 13, like, whoa, wait a minute. How they look at you and roll their eyes and how they're mature. You know, sometimes we look at it and say, well, man, that's the food they're eating. Not all the time it's the food. Sometimes it's just in their genetic code to mature at a rapid rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always boys. It's just some people in there, once again, in their genome code or genetic coding that they develop faster. Are y'all following?
Yes.
All right, very important. All right, and Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, avenge the children of Yasharon of the Midianites. Now, mind you, he got order first. Then he said, now let's go to war. We're going to humiliate them, and we're going to do to them what they did to us. They brought shame to us. Now, mind you, once again, we read that when in chapter 22 all the way to 25, when Balak could not curse them, but he suggested to Balaam, put them in this position and watch they fall. So he set the stage for them to be defeated. He suggested it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And this is how they ended up falling, because he could not curse them. He couldn't speak an evil word over them. But what he could do, and what he did do, and he ended up paying for it, he suggested that he put them in a position to where they could be led into idolatry. Because you have to understand, that was the only way that they were going to be able to get to them. They couldn't get to them any other way. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why you have to cover yourself. This is why you have to cover yourself. And I know a lot of time, people may not like to hear it, and especially a lot of these brothers out there that think it's all right. You understand, these things are put out there for you to follow. That's why they have women out there in swimming suits, in bathing suits. This is why when you're on social media, you have to protect yourself and govern yourself and guard your eye gates.
Mm-hmm.
You do, because how do you think they lured them away from home? Mm-hmm. They enticed them. They gave them some out so that they could bring back into the camp that would them. Why do you think this is why they do? Put this stuff up here. Why do you think they set people up? And this is why you have these ox and they feel like, well, I'm immune. Can't nothing get me. Can't nothing defeat me. And the moment you start falling into that, because you got to understand something. Anytime you go to any restaurant and you get the menu, you're ordering because you what? You want to order. That's why you get the menu, because you're going to do what? Order what's on the menu. This is why they do this. This is why they put this stuff up there. Mm-hmm. So men will begin to be lured by it. And the next thing you know, you've opened yourself up to be defeated. Mm-hmm. You've opened yourself up because he can only entice you with what you want. Mm-hmm. He can't get you no other way. And so it's important that we understand you can't just do anything. Mm-hmm. You can't. And this is why when these brothers be having these pages 2 and 3, and all you see is these young ladies coming, trying to friend them. My question is why? Mm-hmm. Why cometh ye here? What do you expect? Mm-hmm. What is it that you want to learn? Are y'all following me? I'm serious. Yes. What is it that you're coming to learn? What is it that you want to know? Because if you can't give me a reason you want to be want to with me, keep it moving. Mm-hmm. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important we understand that. Again, this is why there are so many breaches and so many gaps, and this is why so many relationships have so much tension.
Right.
Because you understand, even the writings tell us, be careful how you stand lest you fall. Right. So you have to be careful how you stand. Mm-hmm. Very important. And so once again, it's about relationship. And so after these things were put in place, he says, now we're going to go and make them pay for what they've done. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to make them pay for what they have done. And so this is what he did. He said, now, and if you recall back in chapter 29 is where 28-29 is where he began to tell them, now grab all the men 20 years and older, mm-hmm. and let's prepare this time. So once again, you have to understand, Yahuwah addresses things that need to be addressed.
That's right.
And this needed to be addressed. Excuse me. All right. And Moshe spoke unto the people, saying, arm ye men from among you for the war, that they may go against Midian to execute Yahuwah's vengeance on Midian. Of every tribe 1,000, throughout all the tribes of Yasharal shall ye stand to the war. So there were delivered out of the thousands of Yeshurun 1,000 of every tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moshe sent them 1,000 of every tribe to the war, them and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the war, with the Kadesh vessel and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. Now remember, Phinehas was the one who executed the judgment to make sure that the plague that had broken out would not devastate everybody. Remember, he took the javelin and he stuck it through the prince and the princess through stuck it through his back, and it went through her abdomen, right in front of everybody. Why? Because he was zealous for Yahuwah. You have to understand what was taking place at that time. In order for him to get them like that, that meant what they were getting ready to do was set themselves up in a position to commit the act in front of everybody so that they can continue to do and basically be a distraction.
Right.
And while they were standing around, he said, not so, I'm going to take care of this. And he was able to destroy them right then and there. So once again, it's important that we understand what was taking place. And it was from that time that Yahuwah said that he would be in the covenant and that he would carry this office because of him being zealous. And that his sons would always hold that place. So it's very important for us to understand these things. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important. So we see now the picking up of that which is about to take place. And they are about to war. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
They're about to go to war. All right. Now, let's read, starting with verse 7. Let's read 6 verses. Come on.
It fought with Midian as Yahuwah commanded Moshe, and slew every male,
Mm-hmm.
including the 5 kings of Midian, every Rekem, Hur, and Ribah. Also Balaam, son of Beor,
Mm-hmm.
they slew with the sword. And the Yasharites took captive the women of Midian and their little ones, and all their cattle, and their flocks, and their goods as booty. They burned all the cities in which they dwelt, and all their and they took all the spoils, and the prey man and the beast. And they brought the captives, the prey, and the spoils to Moshe and Eleazar, the priest, and to the congregation of the Yasharites at the camp of the plains of Moab, by Jordan at Jericho. And Moshe and Eleazar, the priests, and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them out of the camp. And Moshe was wroth with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, we're going to get to that. Yeah. Once again, the English rendering says booty. That's what when the pirates would go and get the treasure, that's what they would call it. But we call it spoils. It is spoils. It is the spoils that would be brought back, and the and so forth. But once again, they have such a way. English language has such a way to use words. Once again, you know, you can take 2, 3, 4, 5 words, and they mean different things. But it is the spoils that they would get, that they would grab. Now, once again, now listen what happens of the Midianites. Although the Moabites were the agitators of the campaign against Yashurun, no war of retribution was decreed against them because they had some excuse in that they saw themselves threatened by the approaching Yashurunites. But the Midianites, who had no cause for entering into a quarrel with Yashurun, deserved punishment. Afterwards shalt thou be gathered. Since Moshe was not to cross the river, he had to complete his mission on this side of the Jordan before he died. Meting out retribution to the Midianites was part of his mission, hence the connection between the campaign against the Midianites and the death of Moshe. Moshe spoke. Although Moshe was told that his death would occur after accomplishing his task, he ordered the punitive expedition without delay. Yahuwah's vengeance, the enemies of Yashurun are the enemies of Yahuwah. Hence the alternative expression, Yahuwah's vengeance here, and the vengeance of the children of Yashurun in verse 2. Now, although all the tribes of Yashrael, including the tribe of Luwat, probably not as a fighting force, but as a service corps behind the front. So, in other words, everybody, those that were prepared, went. They went with the Torah, and they were ready to stand and keep the standard held. Were delivered, the Ibram bird were delivered forcibly, knowing that Moshe's death was to follow the campaign against Midian. They refused to go to war. They had to be delivered to the authorities. So once again, it's important that they had to, because here it is. They realize after this campaign, he's got to go and die. Remember, now this is getting ready for the changing of the guard, and so after this, he was getting ready to depart from them. And Phineas was designated to be the priest anointed for this war, because having begun the meritorious task of punishing the Midianites by killing Cosbi, the daughter of Zur, he should complete it. So he started it, so he was going to go and finish it, because he made sure, not regarding the consequences, not caring about the consequences, just knowing that he was in vengeance upon the enemy of Yahuwah. The Kadesh vessels, the ark, and golden plate. They slew every adult male they killed. Balaam also, the son of Beor. Balaam, whose home was in Mesopotamia, went to Midian to claim his reward for the 24,000 of Yasharal who fell in the plague brought about by his counsel. Once again, dies too. So, retribution, and we're looking at judgment. Like I say, don't think you're gonna mess with us and not pay.
Right.
You're gonna pay. You're gonna pay solely for it. So once again, here it is, every male and the king. This is what took place. Midian and Yahuwah commanded Moshe, and they slew every king of Midian with the rest of their slain. So once again, all this takes place and shown forth. Now, the problem comes in, they're going to do something really stupid. And we're going to see they have done as we continue to read. Captives prey spoil. The Ibram, Shibi, or Shebi, human beings. Malak, or captured cattle. Shalak, captured, defines Malak as men and cattle when Shebi is not, or Shebi is not specified. Without the camp, to prevent the warriors who have become unclean through a court from entering the camp. So once again, this is how they had to handle everything, and this is how everything had to be brought forth. Because remember, everything was already set up. They could not enter into they couldn't go near the temple, and they couldn't go into camp being bloody and all that stuff. So everything had to be handled in its in the proper manner. Through the counsel of Balaam. And this is what happened once again. He counseled them to do these things, and he paid for it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
He paid for it dearly. Now, let us read. There's something right after this, after they come from war. We're going to read in verse 15 something they did very recklessly. This is why, once again, you can't be led by your emotions. Right. You got to walk and do whatever Abba Yahuwah says. All right, let's read 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Let's read 7 verses.
Chapter 30.
31. Chapter 31. 15 to 21.
And so. And Moshe said unto them, Have ye saved all the women alive? Behold, these caused the children of Yashrael through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against Yahuwah in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yahuwah.
Now, who's that though? Now, this is the problem. They killed all the men, But they saved the women. They saved the women. That was an abominable act. Because look at what Moshe tells them. He says, look, behold, these called the children of Yasharal through the counsel of Balaam to revolt so as to break belief with Yahuwah in the matter of Peor. And so the plague was among the congregation of Yahuwah. He said, why in the world? Now, do you understand what they've just done? Mm-hmm. You're bringing the same problem back into the camp. You're bringing these back into the camp that have caused the deaths of 24,000 men. Why in the world would you do this? Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why, once again, it is important that we understand as a people what is out there in the world and what belongs to the world, leave it out there. And when it is time to deal and execute judgment, you're not supposed to have pity on anybody. Because, see, you have to understand, the men weren't the one that did it. It was the women that came in and did it, even though there's still one. They came in and did this thing and caused major problems. And they were willing to spare them and bring them into the camp. You start thinking, oh, you just didn't say, come on, kill us. Just come on, do it again. Once again, you have to be careful. You can't let your emotions lead you. You have to listen to Yahuwah and the instructions. Once again, this is important. Now, once again, people may not like it, but when you have these brothers up there and all they want to do is talk about what they're doing outside, it doesn't matter what they're doing. If that's not what you want, then why are you constantly saying, this is a shame and these women shouldn't do that? Why are you even over there in their vineyard? Because if you would be focusing on your own, you wouldn't have time to be looking at that. See, because it's just like people eating food saying, I really don't like this, but because it's before me, I'll go ahead on and eat it. I really don't care for this, but I'll eat it. Because it was put there before me. You want to shut them down, stop giving them publicity. Stop promoting them. Because if you got a group of people on your timeline and you see some brothers, because you got to understand, we as a people are easily to be influenced. And that's the truth. You turn right around and you let one brother do it, then you have other brothers doing it, and the next thing you know, it's an epidemic. And it's the truth. It is the truth. This is why, once again, as the elder, you need the example. You need to set the example. Why would you have all those loose women on your page, or why would you go liking loose women? But then you want to holler about women, want to holler about us as women having our heads covered. But they can walk around with all their bottom out. You ain't going to like it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. It's the truth. If you stay in your own home and stay in your own confinement, then you ain't got to worry about what they're doing over there. Let them worry about their own, and you be concerned about what's here in your home. And I'm talking about as a nation of people. Because we see, I've had to unfriend many because I'm like, bro, don't nobody want to see that. Mainly me. Why are you so worried about them not having on no clothes? Because you're only enticed and lured by what is appealing to you. If it wasn't appealing to you, you would do everything in your power to shut it down and close it down. Not put it up there and promote it. But you put it up there so people can share it. You put it up there so somebody else can capture the image and the picture. But this is an abomination to you. If it's an abomination, then you discard it and you kill it. What do? You turn right around and you what you call it? You post it? No, you hit that button where it says you turn them in.
Flag.
You flag it.
Report it.
You report it. Thank you. I could not get the word. Report it. If it's that much an issue, you report it, because your number one thing is, I don't want another young brother to fall prey to this,
Right.
because you might be strong enough to walk away, but the next op may not be. Now you got them on there constantly flipping through them pages, and now that's what their image is, and now that's what they want. When you could stop it and nip it in the bud, report them. Shut that mess down. Because you got to understand, they're after our people. They're after our people. If you're going to help, then shut it down. Don't indulge in it. And try to use the excuse, well, I'm exposing them. No, you're not. You're promoting them. To expose a person says, this, don't go on that page. If you see this pop up, don't even open it up. But you're promoting it. You're promoting it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Verse 17. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. He said kill them all. Every male, every child. He said kill them all. Right. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Kill them all. Now listen what he said in verse 18. But all the women children that have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Now once again, we got to look at what that means for yourselves. For yourselves does not mean for you to make them concubines or wives. You ever heard of servants? They were to be servants.
Right.
They were to be the helpers. That's what they were supposed to be. Not for them to marry them. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
In other words, they were to be raised as bondservants or servants or slaves. But they were never to take them in and put them in the status of a Yahizraelite or a Yashraelite. They were never supposed to do that. Are you following me?
Yes.
They were to be servants. Why would you marry a servant? Are you following me?
Right.
Especially when you know what has come about from these children's parents. It was never to be that. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, but when people see keep them for yourselves, they automatically believe, well, they ain't talking about the women, keep talking about the men, so we can do whatever we want with them. That's not that. They were to be hired, or not even hired, but they were supposed to be slaves and to be servants. They were supposed to, that's what they were supposed to do, serve them, not become anything else. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Once again, this is important for us to understand. That's what that was supposed to be about. Now, once again, let us look and let us finish reading. Now, look what he says in verse 19. And encamp ye without the camp 7 days. Whosoever hath killed any person, and whosoever hath touched any slain, purify yourselves on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, ye are captives. Remember, they had to go through the purification and the ritual, because anytime blood, they were contaminated by death, they had to go through the ritual. It needs to be plugged up. And as to every garment and all that is made of skin, and all work of goat's hair, and all things made of wood, ye shall purify. So everything had to be purified. Are you following me?
Yes.
Everything had to be purified. And it is so. Purify yourselves by means of the water mingled with the ashes of the red heifer, as is the law of any other person who had become unclean by contact with a dead body. So this was important for them to do. It was important for them to do. And your captives, as heathens, the captives were not receptive of ritual uncleanness, and therefore required no sprinkling. What they were required to purify was their garments or any other objects which might have touched a corpse. So it was talking about them and nobody else. Are y'all following?
Yes.
All right. Let us finish reading, please. 21 to 21 to 29. Come on, verse 21 to 29, please.
And Eleazar the Kohen said to the men of the campaign went to the battle, "This is the law of the Torah which Yahuwah commanded Moshe. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead. Every object that passes through fire, you can put through the fire, and it shall be clean. Only let it be cleansed with the water for uncleanness. And whatever does not pass through fire, you pass through water. And you shall wash your garments on the seventh day, and be clean, and afterwards come into the camp." And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Count up the plunder that was taken of man and of beast, you and Eleazar the Kohen, and the heads of the fathers of the congregation. And you shall divide the plunder into 2 parts, between those who took part in the battle, who went out on the campaign, and all the congregation. And set aside a levy for Yahuwah on the men of battle who went out on the campaign. 1 out of every 500 of man and of cattle, and of the donkeys and of the sheep." He said 29.
Yeah, go ahead.
"Take it from their half and give it to Eleazar the Kohen as a contribution to Yahuwah." And it is so.
And it is so. Now they had to do this thing right. I know. They had to do this in the right manner. Now, Eleazar the priest said, after Moshe had told the warriors in general terms that they must purify themselves, Eleazar explained the laws to them in detail because he was in charge of the institution of the red heifer with all its regulations, so that they would know what they needed to do. "Ye shall make to go through the fire." This is explained for the cleansing of the utensils from the forbidden food which they had absorbed. Now understand, once again, that does not mean pork. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
No, that is not talking about pork, because see, we'll get that mentality. Pork, crab legs, shrimp, oysters, clam, other stuff, duck. See, these are different things that people eat because these are delicacies. This is what people eat. And so people will believe that if we get this, we can eat it. No, we cannot. Lobster tails, no, that's forbidden. In addition to the purification of the vessels from the ritual defilement caused by a course, they were instructed to cleanse them from the impurity caused by their use in the connection with, once again, food vessels used for cooking and hot water were to be purified by means of hot water. Those used for roasting and fire must be cleansed by fire, and others used only for cold food stuff had to be scourged with cold water. Now, or scoured with cold water. Once again, when it says that food, now let's put it in perspective. You're going somewhere, and even though you're eating food that is technically clean but unclean because of the company that it is in. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now, if you're dealing with a defiled people and they have food, but it's lamb and it's goat, what makes it defiled is because they are defiled. Are you following me?
Yes.
So you're eating this food not because it's pork or any of the rest of those things, but because of whose it belonged to. This is what makes it unacceptable. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That's why. Not because it was any other type of food. This is what we don't want to miss, that because we don't want to find ourselves making excuses for eating food that is not kosher. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You can't do that. Very important. Now, listen what it says. No such procedure was ordered after the campaign against the Amorite kings Sihon and Og, though they too, the Yashreelites, had taken the spoil of the cities, because the territory of these kings was part of the Kadesh land. and whatever was found in it, even forbidden things, were permitted for use. Once again, understanding what it means by saying what was not permitted at that time. Does not mean that we go against the instructions of Yahuwah and use it. Are you following me? In other words, if that was not permitted, it is not because it was not kosher. It is depending on what was being used for it at that time, and what was surrounding that at that time. Are you following me? Yes. Let's use this example. If you go in and the person has, say, gold spoons and knives and all that great stuff, and they're using these things to eat things that are not kosher. Well, you're not going to go right behind them and eat it. Use their utensils, correct? Because those things have been used for what? Things that are forbidden. But now that you take it as a spoil and it becomes yours and you clean it, you can now use it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now you have to understand the reason why I use that in that manner is because you yourself are not eating the pork. It was the utensil that was used for it. Are you following me?
Yes.
So once again, we don't turn around and take those things, like the food, and try to justify and say, well, we're going to eat this. Because now it was forbidden then, but now it's acceptable. It's not. But he's saying, in other words, food that was eaten at that time and where it came from.
Right.
Because remember, in the hands of those with the things they were doing, made it unclean. Are y'all following me? They didn't eat food with blood in it. They didn't eat those things. But being in that place and eating in that place, because remember, when it was with the king of Sihon and Og, they were in the what? Kadesh land. Meaning it was set apart. But here they are in this land that is not set apart.
Right.
Yes.
Are you following me?
Yes.
So this is why these things were put in place. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's all right. It's all right. Let's go around on that side and just look. As long as it's not bothering anything, though, that's fine. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
Now, into the camp, that is the camp of Shekinah, from which those unclean by the dead were excluded. Divide the prey into two parts. Since the war against Midian was one of retribution for the crimes they had committed against Yasharal, as a whole, the spoils taken in that war was to be divided among all the people. So those that went to fight to get the spoils, they would get a different portion. But everybody would basically get a part. Everybody would be able to take part in getting some of the spoil. Why? Because this was retribution for how they came in and devastated, just basically wrecked the house. But it was the ones that went to battle that got more. Now, if you notice, they gave a purification and gave a ritual for everything that would be acceptable to use, except for what? The young girls. They didn't take them to a ritual cleaning, did they? They didn't take them and bathe them and soap or bathe them and whatever. They didn't go through a ritual cleaning because it was never for them to lie with them. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It was never meant for that. Only things that would be permissible and used had to go through what? A ritual cleaning. They did not. All right. All right. Levy a tribute unto Yahuwah. Only from the spoil taken from Midian, a country outside of Canaan, was a tribute or levy for the priests and Levites. From the spoil taken in the lands of Sihon and Og, which became part of the land of Yasharal, they received no tribute. In this case, both land and its spoil were reserved for the Yasharalites only. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
All right, now, let's read. Did we read verse 30?
Yes. No, between.
Okay. Let's read 30 to 37, please. And it reads, and of the children of Yasharal's half, thou shalt take one drawn out of every 50 of the persons of the beeves, of the asses, and of the flocks, even all the cattle, and give them unto the Levites that keep the charge of the tabernacle of Yahuwah. And Moshe and Eleazar, the priest did as Yahuwah commanded Moshe. Now the prey over and above the spoil which the men of war took was 600,000 and 70,000 and 5,000 sheep, and 12,000 beeves, and 1,000 asses, and 2,000 persons in all of the women that had not known man by lying with him. And the half which was the portion of them that went out to war was in number 300,000 and 30,000 and 7,000 and 500 sheep. And Yahuwah's tribute of the sheep was 600 and 15. And the beeves was 36,000, of which Yahuwah's tribute was 12. And the asses were 30,500, of which Yahuwah's tribute was 61. And the persons were 16,000, of whom Yahuwah's tribute was 32 persons. You see how he's taking a percentage? Mm-hmm. And Moshe gave the tribute which was set apart for Yahuwah unto Eleazar, the priest, as Yahuwah commanded Moshe. And of the children of Yasharal, half which Moshe divided off from the men that warred. Now the congregation's half was 300,000 and 30,000 and 7,500 sheep. That's a lot. And 6,000 beeves, and 30,500 asses, and 16,000 persons. Now once again, they all got their portion. They all got a piece. Everybody shared everything in common. Even when you look in Massa, in Acts, you see that when they came together and brought all their spoils, everything they had, they laid it at the apostles' feet. And they did what? They distributed it out. They gave it out. They didn't keep it for themselves. And this is where Christianity erroneously has followed this. They believe that when that money was put there, when it does not say that. When it does not say that at all. Let's find that real quick. Let me take a break and let's go there real quick. In Massa, I believe it's in chapter 16, which is Acts. We haven't seen this, so let's look at Acts. I believe it is. No, it's in all right, no, I'm sorry, it's in chapter 4. I thought it was chapter 16. Chapter 4. Sharing all things. Starting at chapter 4, verse 32. Now the multitude of those who believed were of one heart and one soul. Neither did anyone say that any of things he possessed was his own. But they had all things in common, and with great power the apostles gave witness to the resurrection of Yahush, and great mercy was upon them all. Nor was there anyone among them who lacked, for all who were possessors of land, of houses, sold them, and brought the proceeds of the things that were sold, and laid them at the apostles' feet, and they distributed to each as anyone had need. Nowhere did it say they kept it. Nowhere, even in here, when we read, do we see that the priests kept it all. Nowhere do we see that the warriors kept it all. Everybody got a part because it was what? Retribution. So everyone got it all. Everybody had something. Yes. The problem comes in with a lot of people in Christianity when they read this. They say, but they laid it at the apostles' feet. But where they failed to finish reading is that they distributed it among everybody so that everybody could have some. They don't read the rest of that. They only read the portion that benefits them and what they can get out of it. That's erroneous teaching. Are you following me? That's erroneous and it's wrong. Everybody got some. With that amount, even if each home got one sheep, that's one more you didn't have. Are you following me?
Yes.
If you got an ass, that's one more that you didn't have.
Right.
So once again, we're seeing that this was distributed evenly, so everybody could have. Are you following?
Yes.
Which one you need?
Okay. The midbar.
The midbar. Chapter 31.
Okay.
We're in chapter 31. Verse 41.
Okay.
No, we're in verse, I'm sorry. 45. Yeah, verse 45. Are we understanding?
Yes.
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 Now, listen what he says. Even all the cattle, this apparently included camels, which being few in number, were not received by Eleazar. They are not mentioned either among the cattle or among those received by the Levites. Moshe and Eleazar, the priests. No mention is made here of the heads of the fathers' houses, who were also charged with the task of counting and distributing the spoils. Possibly their presence was not obligatory, but merely a suggestion as to avoid suspicion that Eleazar might take more than he was entitled to. The elders who had confidence in his integrity declined to be present. You always had to be like, no, stand and watch, because we don't want nobody getting more than what we're supposed to have. Now, over and above the spoil which the men of war took, that is the number, do not include the heads of cattle which the troops used for their own needs. And the half, though the total of the spoil had already been stated, the half due to the warriors with its tribute to the priests, as well as the second half due to the people with its tribute to the Levites, are enumerated in detail. The purpose of this apparent repetition is to indicate that none of the cattle died from the day they were captured until the day they were divided and the tribute levied. Once again, nothing died. So these are some of the things that when we read, we need to make sure we're reading and getting an understanding. Now, once again, you have to understand, everybody got a part.
Right.
Everybody. This is one of the things that when we read, we need to look at as well. We look and we say, well, ain't nobody supposed to be paying no tithes. Ain't nobody supposed to be doing nothing. Ain't nobody supposed to be doing nothing. And so we hoard money and we hoard things and we don't give.
Right.
And we feel like we shouldn't have to. But when you look at the writings and when you look at what is done and why it was distributed, how in the world can you turn around and say, well, I'm not going to sow and I'm not going to help? Are y'all following me? We go to restaurants and we eat, those that do go. And whether you go to a restaurant or not, if you go to the store, you're going to pay taxes. Unless you use an EBT. Hello. You're going to pay taxes. And in paying your taxes, that is their way of saying we're going to take ours off the top. But when it comes down to giving, and giving to those that are teaching and promoting, we have an issue because we have been erroneously taught to believe there is no need for it, when clearly the scriptures show us it is. This is how they were able to do what they needed to do. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. We go get people that do go, I do my own nails and my own hair, but people that go get their hair done, get their nails done, when you go get your hair and nails done, you pay for that. Because that's a what? Service being rendered. But when we look at the teachers and leaders, we don't look at that as being a service rendered. We look at that as being something else. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Yes.
So we withhold and we hold back and we don't give. Now, some folk do, and some people don't. And then we let people talk us out of stuff because we let people contaminate us and make us feel like, well, I ain't giving them my money. I don't know where it's going. Nobody asked what they're doing with their cattle because they already knew what they were going to do with it. They're going to eat it, shear it, do whatever they needed to do to use the stuff that they needed to use. And nobody was greedy and nobody felt like, well, those that wanted to watch said, let's make sure he don't get more, which he had integrity. What are you going to do that for? The reason he got in the position he got in was because he showed what? Integrity. So he wasn't going to take away to mess up what Yahuwah had given him. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
Very important for us to understand. All right, let's look at verse 40. 46, 45. Let's read start at 45.
How many verses?
Let's read, because we're going to the next chapter. Let's read, okay, we're starting at 45. Let's read all the way to 54.
Okay. And it reads, and 30,000 asses and 500 and 16,000 persons, even of the children of Yashra'al's half. Moshe took one portion of 50, both of man and of beast, and gave them unto the Levites, which kept the charge of the tabernacle of Yahuwah, as Yahuwah commanded Moshe. And the officers, which were over thousands of the host, the captains of thousands, and captains of hundreds, came near unto Moshe. And they said unto Moshe, thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war, which are under our charge, and there lacketh not one man of us. Brought and obtained, we have there, what every man hath got, jewels of rings, earrings, and tablets to make a Kohen, and all the gold of the offering that they offer captains of thousands and of the captains 16,750 shekels. For the men of war had taken spoil, every man for himself. And Moshe and Eleazar the Kohen took the gold of the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it into the tabernacle of the congregation for a memorial for the children of Yashra'al before Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, look at look at what they did. They weren't greedy, they weren't selfish. They just made it as a memorial. You start thinking, man, we running over with this stuff. There's no reason. All right, chapter 30 verses, I believe in this. We're going to read this. Let's read verses, please. And then we're going to Jeremiah.
Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Yatzah and the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle. When came and spoke unto Moshe and unto Eleazar the Kohen, and unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Roth and Dibon and Yatzah and Nimrah and Heshbon and Eliela and Shebon and Nebo and Beam, country which Yahuwah smote before the congregation of Yashra'al, is a land for cattle, and your servants have cattle. Wherefore said they, if we have found esteem in your sight, and be given unto your servants for possession, and bring us not over Jordan. And Moshe said unto the children of God and to the children of Reuben, would your brethren go to war, and shall you sit there? And why do you discourage the heart of the children of Yashra'al, from going over into the land which Yahuwah has given them? Thus did your abbas, when I sent them come from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, look, the children of Gad, of Gold, and the children of Reuben, and their offspring, their children. Whereas in the preceding verse, the children of Reuben are named first in order of tribal seniority. In all the succeeding negotiations, the children of God are mentioned first. The reason is the children of God conceived the idea of settling they were not afraid to settle away from the remainder of the people. So they were like, hey, we want, this is what we want, it'll work, let us go ahead and have it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Wherefore, he said, will you turn away? Moshe suspected that the recall or real motive behind their request was fear to take part in the war against the inhabitants of Canaan. Therefore, he warned them by their action they might strike terror into the heart of the people, as did the spies. The same disaster would be repeated, and the whole generation perish in the wilderness. Boy, that's some stuff. So thinking that's why we have to be careful of our actions. You know, just because it sound right and sound like, you know, this will work, you got to look at, okay, what is going to be the action? And y'all are the warriors. Why would y'all stay behind? Why would you want to stay over here and not move forward? So once again, it's important we be careful of what we do. All right, let's read verse 9. Let's read 9. 9 all the way to 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Read all the way to the 16.
And it is chapter 32, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
After they went up to the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, they discouraged the Yasharites from entering the land Yahuwah had given them. Yahuwah's anger was aroused that day, and he swore this oath. Because they had not followed me wholeheartedly, not one of the men 20 years old or more who came out of Mitzrayim will see the land I promised unto Abraham, Yasek, and Yaakov. Not one except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Yahush, son of Nun. For they followed Yahuwah wholeheartedly. Yahuwah's anger burned against Yasharal, and he made them wander in the desert 40 years, until the whole generation of those who had done evil in his sight was gone. And here you are, a brood of sinners, standing in the place of your idols, making Yahuwah even more angry with Yasharal.
Mm-hmm.
If you turn away from following him, he will again leave all this people in the desert, and you will be the cause of their destruction. Then they came up to him and said, we would like to build pens here for our livestock, and cities for our women and children. And it is so.
And it is so. You start thinking, they just kept on talking and didn't even look at it. Now, but look at what they decree after they do this. After they come up, and Moshe is telling them, because he's like, look, don't bring these people to this part and then turn around and do something that's going to cause them to go back and repeat history all over again. Now, you got to understand, once again, this is why anything, whatever we do, it is important that we state up front the purpose and what is going to be the better benefits or the greater benefits out of our choices. That nobody is going to be left behind. These things have to be brought forward, because you have to understand, Moshe is getting ready to basically back up. And it is Yahush, the son of Nun, that is about to step into office. And so you can understand that he could have some major concerns. You know, I'm about to be taken, and y'all don't need to be backpedaling and doing all this. No, we got to make sure we're all on the same page so that we do not repeat the same thing over. So you can imagine that there was a little bit of fear in there. Why would y'all want to do this now? Why would you want to make Yahuwah angry? But understanding in the end what comes about. But once again, anything we do, let us always make sure that everybody's best interest is wrapped up in our decisions and choices. Not just about me getting mine, but how can you benefit, or what can I do to help you benefit, even though I may not go where you're going, we're still going. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're still going forward. We're not going backwards. But it's important that we understand what's taking place here. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
He says, sheepfold here for our cattle. They were apparently more concerned with the safety of their property than with the welfare of the children, because they made reference to their cattle before them by saying, build your cities, or build you cities for your little ones, and afterwards folds for your sheep, to go before the children of Yasharal. They offered themselves to form the vanguard in the campaign against Canaan, because the Gadites were mighty warriors. So once again, it's important that we understand what comes first. my stuff or my family? My stuff on my family. You got to sit there and think about it. It's something wrong. Are you hearing me? It's something drastically wrong. Your family comes first. He said, you mean your little ones? But now you got to understand something. Let me tell y'all something. A person that has been deprived and depraved of things for a long time, if they're not put in check, they will put their things before their mishpachot. They'll do it. This is why when people get money and do stuff, the first thing they do is go do for themselves. Then they come back and do for their families. But you got to remember, along that long, dusty road and that long journey, they were right there with you. Are y'all following me? Yeah. So it's important that we understand what comes first. And so, once again, we have to be kept in check. That's all of us. We have to be kept in check so that we don't make the wrong decisions and the wrong choices. But you got to remember, look at all the stuff they just got. Now, mind you, before they went into this, they had stuff, but not like what they had. You know, they had stuff they can look at and say, shoot, we can finally build, a sheep gate at the time. We just had to tie it up on a tree. Find a rope, we straight, but now you got to be, you know how much that is. That means you got to put them in like a crowd. That means you got something to count. You can stand and look and say, 1, 2. All right, where that feet? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I got you. So you got to understand, once again, we can never be led, by now I finally got what I want, or I finally got this to where now, I'm set. We can live and be comfortable, but then forget certain things. We don't ever want to get so comfortable that we forget what's important, and that's our mishpachot. Very important. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Very, very, very important. So they tell him, but we will go to what war? And he says, we will fortify the cities. He said, we will not return unto our houses until the children of Yasharal have inherited every man his inheritance. You know how, like I said, they want to live different. My reasoning would be, we will not come back and be settled till our family is settled. You are Yasharal, right?
Yes.
So if we are Yasharal, that means we won't be settled till what? Till our mishpachot is settled. You would think there would be a little more personal with that. Be a little more personal and a little more into certain things. We won't be like, well, when Yasharal gets together or gets right, then things will be all right. No, when we get right and we get together, then things will be different. Because we don't separate ourselves. Right. When we say, if one is messing up, we all messed up. Because we are what? Mishpachot. So it's all of us. We don't separate. Are y'all follow me?
Yes.
Now it says, for we will not inherit with them on the other side of Jordan and forward, because our inheritance is fallen to us on the side of the Jordan eastward. And Moshe said unto them, if you will do this thing, if ye will arm yourselves to go before Yahuwah to war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan before Yahuwah until he hath driven out his enemies from before him, and the land be subdued before Yahuwah, you will turn afterward, and you shall be clear before Yahuwah and before Yasharal, and this land shall be unto you for a possession before Yahuwah. Once again, remember, if you made a vow, you were not to do what?
Defer from it.
Defer for it, or what? Delaying doing it. He said, no, y'all come on, do this. And let's get settled. Let everybody get settled at the same time. While you get settled and get comfortable, and we still haven't even been able to put, not one stake in the ground, but you already got your cattle already producing. So he's still getting that mentality until we're all comfortable. None of us are comfortable. And until we've all had or achieved that, none of us have achieved it. That's the mentality that we're supposed to have. And that's the mentality as leaders we are supposed to be promoting.
Sure.
If all of us don't have it, then none of us have it. It doesn't matter if you can ride in what you want. It doesn't matter if you can live where you want to live. If we are supposed to be a cob, then if all of us don't have it, then none of us have it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's sad, but everybody don't have that mentality. But that's the mentality we are supposed to have. And so they made that vow, and he said, if you will do this, in other words, conditional, don't put your mouth out there and then not do it. Because we're all supposed to have this. That's important for us to remember and to hold on to and maintain. And it is so. All right, let's read 23 all the way to 23, 45, 30. Let's read 30. But if you will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against Yahuwah, and know ye your sin which will find you. You know how we say yours will find you out? That's what we coined it. We just coined it in a different way. Know ye your sin which will find you. Build you cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. And the children of God and the children of Reuben spoke unto Moshe, saying, thy servants will do as you have commanded. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead. But thy servants will pass over, every man that is armed for war, before Yahuwah to battle, as Yahuwah said. So Moshe gave charge concerning them to Eleazar. How do y'all say that? Eleazar. Eleazar. Okay, thank you. Eleazar, the priest, and to Yahush, the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Yasharal. And Moshe said unto them, if the children of God and the children of Reuben will pass with you over the Jordan, every man that is armed to battle before Yahuwah, and the land shall be subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. But if they will not pass over with you armed, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. And the children of God and the children of Reuben answered, saying, as Yahuwah hath said unto thy servants, so shall we do. We will pass over armed before Yahuwah into the land of Canaan, and the possession of our inheritance shall remain with us beyond the Jordan. And Moshe gave unto them even the children of God, to the and the children of Reuben, half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, land according to the cities whereof, with their borders, even the cities round about. And the children of God built Didon, and Atareth, or the Dibon, I'm sorry, Dibon, and Ataroth, and Eror, and Ashtaroth Shaphan, and Jazer, and Yachbeth, or Yachbahah, and Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran, 4 folds for sheep. And the children of Reuben built Heshbon, and Elileth, and Kirathim, and Nebo, and Baal Meon, their name being changed, and Sibmah, and gave their names unto the cities which they builded. And the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it, and dispossessed the Amorites that were therein. And Moshe gave Gilead unto Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he dwelt therein. And Yair, the son of Manasseh, went and took the villages thereof, and called them Hawajir, or Hawath Yair. And Nobah went and took Kenath, and the villages thereof, and called Nobah after his own name. And it is so. Now he gave it to them, and when they went, and they didn't lose no time, they quickly went and did what they said they were going to do. Whenever you put something out there and you look at how they did, they went and immediately did it, that their siblings would not have to be waiting long. In other words, let's do it. We put it out there. Let's not wait. Let's go take it over. Let's name it. Let's go win this. Rename it. Put our stuff there, and let them get theirs. Are you following me? Yes. So they did it. They didn't wait. Okay, we're gonna rest a month because we just came out of war. Then we'll go in the building. They went ahead and subdued. No, they got into it immediately. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So that their siblings could get into it immediately. The children of God spoke. The Ibram verb is in the singular to indicate that they were unanimously agreed to observe the condition imposed upon them by Moshe. Then you shall give them the land of Gilead. They received only a few cities in Gilead. They fortified for settling there, their families and their flocks. The whole land of Gilead was promised them if and when they took part in the campaign against Canaan. So they just went in and got the part, put their family in there, almost like a rental. You see what I'm saying? Okay, we're going to clear this out. Now, I know this ain't the house you want. I know it ain't the way everything's supposed to be, but you're going to stay here just till we go and finish this up.
Right.
And we build. See, that's the way when we look at these things, Yahuwah wants us to have things, but not being stingy and selfish.
Right.
Remember, you just got to stay here just till we go and help them get theirs. Now, just think if we did that when it came down to people possessing land here in the land of our enemies. Well, you know, we got this, and until we go to the land, we already settled. We already got our stuff built. We already got our gardens flourishing. We already had this. Well, we're going to come help you. We're going to help you settle this so you can get your chickens and get your sheep and, you know, get your cattle. We're going to help you get your stuff so you can get your land and get your, because see, we already have enough to where we can live comfortably. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
This is the, but it has to be there for it to be done. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important. But they couldn't get all of it until they finished doing what they were supposed to do. So will we do. They repeated their promises to demonstrate their sincerity. And unto the half-tribe of Manasseh, originally only the children of God and Reuben asked for a possession in Trans-Jordan. But when it was found that the land was too expensive for the two tribes, part of it was offered to any other tribe. A portion of the tribe of Manasseh accepted the offer. Their names being changed, the two cities, Nebo and Baal-Meon, were renamed because they bore the names of heathen gods. Called them Hawath-Yer, because Yer was childless. He perpetuated his name in the captured place. Yer. And it is so. He had no children. He was childless. Look that up. Are you following?
Yes.
All right. Now, let us turn our attention to, we're going to turn our attention to Jeremiah, and we're going to read chapters 1 and chapters 2, very short passages, and then we're going to go, we're going to take a break, and we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to come back and finish up our Hadasha portions. That way give us a time to allow what we've heard and give us a time to eat once again, and then we're going to come back and finish up our latter part. And it is so. All right, Jeremiah chapter 1, starting at verse 1. Let's read 7.
The words of Jeremiah, the son of Kelitiyahu, of the Kohanim that were in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of Yahuwah came in the days of Yoshiyahu, the son of Ammon, king of Yehuda, in the 13th year of his reign. It came also in the days of Yahuyakim, the son of Yoshiyahu, king of Yehuda, to the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Yoshiyahu, king of Yehuda, to the carrying away of Yerushalayim, captive in the 5th month. Then the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before you came forth out of the womb, I set you apart, and I ordained you a prophet unto the nation. Then said I, our master, Yahuwah, behold, I am a child. But Yahuwah said not, I am a child, for you shall go to all that I shall send you, and whatsoever I command you, you shall speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with you, says Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so. So, Anathoth, one of the 13 cities which were assigned to the priests. The word of Yahuwah came, meaning began to come. I sanctified thee. In addition to personal training, prophecy demands preparation by the would-be prophet even before he is born. And this is a quoting from the Maimonides. Once again, I read these things so that we can get an understanding, because you have different, in the Maimonides is a set of rules that was brought forth by Maimonides, which was a person, I believe he was a rabbi or a sage, and these were some of his standards. And so when you hear these things, you can pinpoint where they come from when you have an understanding that there's a lot of things that are out there. Like I say, that's tradition that was created by different rabbis and sages. Once again, I cannot speak. As a very young man, I cannot rebuke a whole nation. In other words, he was alluding to his youthfulness and saying, well, I can't rebuke them. They're a nation. And then you have to understand there were elders in there. And being young as he would have had to rebuke some elders. And just a little. He would have to rebuke some elders. And he had respect. But Yahuwah came in and encouraged him. He said, to whomsoever I shall send thee. This was an intimation to the youthful Jeremiah in the provincial town that he would be invested with courage to appear in the capital and rebuke the king and his people with greatness. In other words, he wouldn't go up there ignorant and acting unlearned. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You have to understand, just because you're a teacher, even if you are a street preacher, there's still elegance and there's still integrity and wisdom that follows it. Are you following me? Very important to understand. Now, let's read verse 8 to 12. Read 8 to 12.
Starting at verse 8. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you, and will rescue you, declares Yahuwah. Then Yahuwah reached out his hand and touched my mouth, and said, now I have put words in your mouth. See today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. The word of Yahuwah came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I see the branch of an almond tree, I replied. Yahuwah said to me, you have seen me correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled. The word of Yahuwah came to me again. What do you see? I see a boiling pot tilting away from the north, I answered. And it is so.
Again, it's important that we understand that what he was given to do. That what he was given to do. Now, mind you, the tone changes in our reading when we look at the Haftarah, and we began to see the prophets being raised up. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because now the prophets are coming to bring order and to maintain the discipline over the children of Yasharal. Very important to understand. To deliver thee. He was not promised freedom from antagonism. In fact, he was persecuted on account of his prophetic mission and it nearly cost him his life. But he was promised deliverance from death. He understood, you're going to catch it. You're going to find yourself being ridiculed, and you're going to find yourself in this walk, even in this time, being ridiculed, ostracized, criticized, slammed, talked about, called out your name, said all manner of evil because of correction you bring. Or even if that's not that, they you completely. And they'll act like what you're saying, you ain't said a word. They'll be like, and there is a voice in here, but who is that saying? And they will act like you're not saying anything. They will basically ignore you. And so these are things that, as the prophet, he had to endure. As a prophet, you're going to endure criticism. You're going to endure hardship. You're going to endure a whole lot of things. But you got to remember, when Yahuwah calls you to this position, he's going to take care of you. He's going to take care of you. And it is so. He said, I have this day set thee over the nations. By his appointment as prophet to the nations with a mission for great or evil, he virtually became ruler over them. Now you have to understand when he says nations, he's talking about the children of Yasharal. This is who he's talking about. No other people. He was not raised up for any other people except for his own. Right. He says, thou hast well seen the almond tree which blossoms earlier than any other tree was symbolic of the divine decree to bring punishment upon Yasrael speedily. Now, once again, we see them getting these things. And remember when he said in Devarim chapter 6, he said, when thou hast eaten and thou art full, what did he say? Don't forget me. Now, they've eaten and they are full. Now, we know the next thing is they forgot him. It's sad, but they did. They forgot him. Out of the north, the evil shall break forth. An allusion to Babylon, which is situated to the north of Canaan. At the entrance of the gates of Jerusalem, a prediction of the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. I will utter my judgments against them by bringing mighty adversaries against them. Now you have to understand, you done made it this far, you done got all this, and now you mess up. Now our people mess up. This is why it is important in the time we live in that we don't mess up. We don't be that next generation after generations to come right into that slot and we do the very same thing. We can't. You have to understand, the thing that binds us and makes us committed to him is our relationship with him. Your relationship with him ought to be the very thing that makes you be committed to him. No matter what's taking place in and upon our lives, I'm committed to him because of my relationship with him, because his relationship with me. Not because I have everything I want right now, because I don't. Are you following me?
Yes.
Not because everything is going the way that I want it, because it's not. But that will not affect my relationship with him. Are you following me? Yes. Our relationship with him is not contingent upon the things he gives us. It is contingent upon our relationship and the revelation that he reveals to us through the writings. His instructions for our lives. If it's built upon anything else, it's not going to last. Right. Because the moment people start talking ill about you and talking about threatening and killing and doing all this, if you're not strong in your relationship, you'll be ready to walk away from it. And I'm not talking about people that's ignorant. I'm talking about people that's well skilled in the Torah. Right. And they start coming trying to talk all this junk to you. And you start thinking, well, what in the world? How can they do this? I know they ain't following truth. You got to be able to know, no, my relationship with him is thicker and stronger than your negative words against me, than your negativeness towards me. I'm not going to forfeit my relationship with him. This is what we have to understand about relationship. That's one of the things our ancestors and forefathers, some of them have. You know, Yahush, the son of Nun, had one, and Caleb. You see how long it took for them to get the land that was promised, but nowhere do you find in the writings that they ever grumbled, they ever complained, they ever said how much longer. You don't ever hear anything else about them until it's time for them to go and take up what is theirs. Right. We know Yahush, the son of Nun, became the leader, but you don't hear him saying, well, how much longer? You know, you hear him messing up one time, and he didn't mess up. One thing he did, he was blinded. And they got ready to go and fight at Ai. And we see what happened. But we don't see anywhere else. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
This is important for us to understand. Relationship is key. Relationship in it for the long haul. Relationship says, as the song says, I'm going to run on and see what the end's going to be. Okay. That's what we do. We run on. We don't skip. We don't walk. We run. That's right. Because we understand. And we're not running because we're trying to, outrun him, but we're not walking because we're not saying, well, I'm just going to take my time. No, we're running because we're maintaining our consistency and our momentum. Right. I'm not going to let my momentum stop because you are disgruntled. I'm not going to let my momentum stop because you can't get what a woman teaches. I'm not going to let that stop me. Are you understanding? Because it's my relationship with him that is the pushing force. It is that binding hub that makes me continue to go forward and go harder, right, longer and stronger because of my relationship. Right. That's what's important. When you don't have a relationship with him, when all types of stuff start coming your way, especially when you are vulnerable, that's when you start grabbing on everything. That's when everything starts seeming appealing. Because it's about what I can get. That's why I wait on him. And when he gives me revelations, he gives them. When he doesn't, I maintain my consistency. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because a revelation never gets old. Never. So once again, it's about relationship. Relationship, relationship, relationship. And they ended up getting in trouble. And he ended up bringing the adversaries against them. Why do you think our people are suffering today? Disobedience. And our hearts go out to them, but the facts still, no, the truth remains because facts change. Right. It's punishment. Well, they shot them down. Look at how our people being treated. Look at how you're treating Yahuwah. Look at how we constantly refuse the gift of life through Yahush al-Mashiach. And then when somebody pays the price for the crime, now we upset. We ought to repent and turn back to Yahuwah. That's right. So we can't look at a system that was created. Then we know who the adversaries are. But now we're ready to go in. The adversaries. No, stop for a moment. You ain't in truth. You're going to pay the penalty. And this is what is happening. That's why we need to make sure we're living the life so that others can see how to live it. Are y'all following? Yes. Very important for us to understand that. Very important. The adversary. And they're not going to stop. And listen, verse 16, and I will utter my judgments against them, touching all their wickedness, and that they have forsaken me and have offered unto other gods or powers, and worship the work of their own hands. Does that not sound like Yasharal today?
Yes.
Yes.
You got people telling people to kiss their feet. You got people that esteem in their attire. Not in who they are, but in their attire. Right. Their phylacteries and their seats and their garments. But then they're mean as rattlesnakes, and then they say we worship Yahuwah, but then you turn right around and you can't even get a civil or social conversation out of them. It's judgment. And watch this. That's happening to them outside. But it's going to start happening to those of us that say we are walking in truth. Right. When that hammer falls, we're going to see. See, because while now you got people doing different things, saying different things, and a lot of stuff going on, and just believe they're immune from being judged. Remember, judgment is going to begin in where? The household of belief, or in the tabernacle. So understand something. While we can prepare ourselves and while we can make sure we're living right, we better do so.
That's right.
We better do so. We can't afford to be out there doing any and everything. And it is so. Now listen what he says. Thou therefore gird up thy loins and arise and speak unto them all that I command thee, and be not dismayed at them, lest I dismay thee before them. He said, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. For behold, I have made thee this day a fortified city, and an iron pillar, and a brazen wall, and brazen walls against the whole land, against the kings of Yehudah, against the princes thereof, against the priests thereof, and against the people of the land. Now you have to understand, he just done called out the whole organization. He's called out Yasharal. And they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee. For I am with thee, said Yahuwah, to deliver thee. People don't like to be corrected. They don't like to be corrected. And when you rise up and say, that's not right, that's not the right way, they get angry with you. Oh, I already know that. Well, if you already know that, then why aren't you doing it? If you know you're supposed to be set apart and not doing that, then why do you continue to mingle? Once again, our people don't like to be told anything. And if you notice when he went, what was his name? His main mission was to tell them, y'all worshiping idols. He wasn't talking to them about anything else but what they were doing, and that was worshiping idols, and they had fallen away from truth and had forsaken him. Now everybody want to fight about, well, in order to read this correctly and be able to do this, you need to know Ibram. I'm not knocking that. Trust me, I am not. Because I'm studying it. But you can speak fluent Ibram all day long, or Hebrew. But if you ain't living right, it don't mean nothing. Are you following me?
Yes.
If you still dilly-dabbing and you backdooring stuff, you still in error. You still promoting things that are idolatry. You still promoting stuff that he has specifically said don't do. It doesn't mean a thing. Because now all you're doing is basically being puffed up in your arrogance and in your pride.
Right.
You have to understand, now people have more knowledge, now they're more proudful or full of pride. They're so proud and have so much pride, you can't even touch them. You can't even talk to them. That's a problem. Because they're full of pride.
Right.
And they celebrate and worship what? The crafts. Or the work of their what? Hands. My studying got me this. I know people. And now, this is what you do. And when we say, y'all, it's time to walk back, it's time to get back in line. It's time for us to fall in line. Folk get mad at you. Or they ignore you. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand the whip has not been released yet. But it's going to. And we need to make sure that we are walking and operating in truth. And people can say all day long, we don't need nobody to tell us that. Well, if you don't need nobody to tell you that, then why aren't you doing it? Once again, he raised up the prophets. Why? To bring correction and to bring truth. And it is so.
It is so.
Now, listen what he said. Once again, verse 19. And they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee. For I am with thee, said Yahuwah, to deliver thee. Chapter 2, it's 3 verses. Chapter 2 of Jeremiah. And it's 3 verses. All right.
Give me out, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
It reads, Moreover, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Yahuwah, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the Ahab of thy spouses.
Mm-hmm.
when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Yahshua was Kodesh unto Yahuwah, and the firstfruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend. Evil shall come upon him, saith Yahuwah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now listen what he said. He said, go cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus saith Yahuwah, I remember for thee the affection of thy youth, thy Yahab of thy espousals, how thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. In other words, he said, I remember how you were affectionate and how you ahabbed me. What happened? you remember, what happened? Why is it that this has changed? When you see people going after knowledge instead of going after Yahuwah, that's a problem.
That's right.
Because all you want to do is go after knowledge. When right here is the knowledge. And when we have a relationship, he'll reveal to us and he'll put the things within our grasp that we need. But you have people that study just for debate's sake. They go buy all these books and all this material just for the sake of debating. So they get all this knowledge so that they can say, I'm more knowledgeable than you. I know more than you. But where is your relationship with him? Where's your relationship? When you spend more hours studying because you're trying to have everything memorized so you can debate, you don't have him. But when you're studying and in your studying, you get sidetracked because you began to talk and praise him, and then you forget. Well, no, I know I was studying, but I didn't lost what I was studying. Because now, instead of that, you turn your attention towards talking and communing and worshiping him. See, because that's what it's about. And that's what they missed. They missed that. Because they began to fall away. So you got to understand, relationship is two-sided, not one-sided.
Right.
And when it is one-sided, you'll have one person working and working and working, and the other person won't do anything. And you'll know in the end who was doing all the work and who wasn't. Because the one that lacks the work will be the one that will walk away. And that's what they did. And that's what we see today. And this is why we see all this bickering and fussing, and folk don't care about what they say and how they hurt people, because you don't have no relationship.
Right.
Because if you have a relationship with Yahuwah, you know whatever you say that hurts me hurts him. If I hurt you, I not only hurt you, but I hurt him, and in turn I hurt myself. Because it's a boomerang. You can't do this, but you got people out there that are malicious, nasty, and mean. And they don't care what they say because they feel like I don't have to do that. Why? Because pride has taken place. My hands have gotten me this. My hours of studying has gotten me this. Not the Ruach HaKodesh. I did this. That's why, once again, you see so much stuff going on. And then people, as I said before, you got young ears that hear. We don't need no leader. We don't need a teacher. Shoo. I didn't study myself. Then they get caught up studying stuff because they trying to study stuff that's too strong for them. Now the next thing you know, they're reading stuff and misinterpreting the writings.
Right.
Now you got people out here that's trying to teach folk when they themselves choking on milk. You choking on milk, but you trying to tell me something about meat. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why we've got to come back. We got to find ourselves walking in his truth. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
No other way it can be done. This is the only way it can be done. Evil shall come upon them, said Yahuwah. And it is upon us. And it is going to continue to be upon us because of the disobedience of our people. He's not going to punish us for something we haven't done. You only get punished for what you do. Or a lack of doing what you're supposed to do. He said, that is of the people of Jerusalem. I remember for thee the affection of thy youth. Though Yahuwah will punish Yasharal for their evil deeds, he will not destroy us wholly. He remembers our loyalty to him. And I'm talking about our ancestors and forefathers. In the infancy of their nationhood, and how they were wedded to him by accepting the Torah. When we accept the Torah, that is our wedding. That is our acceptance of the proposal of the groom to us, his bride. And when we accepted that, we made ourselves his bride. That's why we can't be cheating on him. That's why we can't be, longing to go somewhere else and hear something else, because that's being a cheater.
Right.
That's being that you're not being loyal anymore. And I want to be loyal.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm going to be loyal because I have him. Yasharah is Yahuwah's hallowed portion. As hallowed things are forbidden to non-priests who are penalized if they eat them, so shall they who devour Yasharel be punished because they are hallowed portion. We are a hallowed portion. In other words, we are a set apart, sanctified, Kadesh portion unto Yahuwah. And anybody that touches us is going to get it.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
But also remember, don't put yourself in the way to be gotten. Because if you do, you're going to find yourself in great trouble. And it is so.
It is so.
Now, I know I said we were going to stop. We only have one verse that I want to read in, not one, 4 verses in Matit Yahu. And we will be ready to close out this session. It's only 4 verses. Matit Yahu, chapter 5.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Chapter 5, verses 33 to 37.
And it is so.
All right. We're reading 33 to verse 37.
And it is so.
All right.
Verse 33.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to Yahuwah. Verse 34. But I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by Shemaim, because it is power strong. Verse 35.
Mm-hmm.
Nor by the earth of the Eretz, for it is his footstool, nor by Yerushalayim, for it is the city of the great sovereign. 6th verse. 33 to
37.
verse 36. Now swear by your head, because you are not able to make one hair white or black. Verse 37. But let your word yea be yea, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, right there. Now, let us go real quick to chapter 6 of the Devarim. Real quick, because I want to show you something that's important. So it doesn't sound like this is a contradictory of the word.
And it is so.
All right. Now, verse 13. Read verse 13 for me.
And it is so. Leviticus chapter 6, verse 13. Fear Yahuwah your power, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. And it is so.
And it is so. It says it in this manner in the Abrahamic covenant scriptures. You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him and shall swear by his name. Now, let me show you something. Anything else that is outside of that is from the wicked one. We are commanded to swear only in his name for taking an oath. Now, let's go back to Matit Yahu chapter 5. All right. 33 says, again, you have heard that it was said by them of ancient times that you shall not swear falsely, but perform your oaths to who? Yahuwah. But I say to you, swear not falsely at all, neither by Shemaim, for it is power's throne. Now listen what he's saying. He's saying, don't do it falsely. He's saying, don't use these other things and these other, and using in term, don't try to use anything that is above that. Now you follow me?
Yes.
All right. Now let's look at verse 35, which all of it goes together. Nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yes, yes, no, no. For whatever is more than these comes from deceit. He never said, not by the name of what? Yahuwah. He said, don't use these terms. Don't use this manner, because it comes from the deceitful one. In that time, they used the name of Yahuwah. And this is why you should never make an oath. And if you make an oath and you're going to put something on it to declare it or seal it, you only use the name of Yahuwah. Only. You don't use his footstool. You don't use the Shemayim. You don't use your head. You don't use any of those things. You know how people say, on my grandmother's grave, on my mama's grave, on this, on that, on my own grave. You are nobody. But when you put Yahuwah in it, you basically involved him, and he's going to ensure that you keep it. And if you don't keep it, you're going to lose your life. Once again, he never said not to use it in the right manner. He said it in this manner. Look at verse 33 again, and we're about to pray and close. Again, you have heard that it was said by them of ancient time that you shall not swear falsely. The emphasis is to swear falsely, not to swear, but falsely. So if you come into where you are making an oath or a binding agreement and you need backing, that's when you involve Yahuwah. But he said don't swear falsely. He never said not to. He said just don't do it falsely. This is where a lot of people have missed it once again, because they missed those other words that are in there. Sometimes those words, leave the page and then they come back. They never leave the page, right? They never leave the page. It is in our reading and in our perception. And watch this. And what people have basically sold or conditioned us believe. So in conditioning us to believe what is not there, what is it, confabulation?
Yes.
Confabulation is when a thought or a memory is put into your memory to make you believe that it's real. And this is what has been done. So we take this and we say, well, no, we're not supposed to swear falsely. Right. You're not supposed to do it falsely. So that cuts that out. And why would we come to this after reading everything? Because remember, they made a promise to do what? To serve Yahuwah. At the Mount of Sinai, they told Yahuwah, when they accepted the Torah, we will be your bride and we will follow you and do whatever you tell us. And they did not obey that. So what did they do? They swear falsely. And it is so. And it is so. Abba Yahuwah, we Torah you for this, our time of commemoration, celebration, a time of class. I Torah you, Abba Yahuwah, for your precious instructions for our lives. I ask that you forgive us of any and all sin, blot out our transgressions, that there be nothing negative between us and thee. As we have gone over the lessons as you have given unto us, not cutting corners, not skimming, not scaling back the writings or the scriptures, but following them and reading each and every one, that we may be completely and totally impacted by every verse and by every word that you have brought forth. I ask Abba Yahuwah, as we prepare to go into our time of lunch and a time of rest for the rest of the day, that you would baruch us and that you would watch over us and watch over that word that you placed in us, that we will not be greedy and we will not forget that it is about us as a nation, the nation of Yasharal, and that we are to be mindful of one another and how we are to bind and how we are to commit to one another, to help one another. I ask Abba Yahuwah that you would allow this teaching to reach our hearts, the depths of our hearts, and even in the depths of our minds, that we won't forget it and that we won't shrug it off or we won't push it off on somebody else, but that we will personalize it and we will receive it and walk in your truth as you have given it unto us. I ask that everyone under the sound of my voice this day would have a shalom time, and that they would have a sweet rest, a time that you would minister to them in their time of rest and in their time of set apartness, away from the world and all of its things and plans and desires. But that this would be a day that we would focus wholeheartedly on you, and that we would comply to your instructions, and that is to rest. For those, Abba Yahuwah, that are in difficult and challenging situations, that you would give them rest, and that they would not allow their situations and even the things that are around them to cloud their view of truth and their time of rest. Give your people, give us mental rest, give us social rest, give us economical rest as we continue to comply and fall in complete and total compliance of your instructions for our lives. I pray, Abba Yahuwah, for your will to be done this day and for the days to come, forevermore, in the mighty name of your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, as we are in this day, a day of commemoration and celebration, a time to rest our hearts and minds, to rest our physical man, no servile work, but that we may be about his business and do all that he's called us to do on this day. I pray once again that your rest will be sweet and your sleep sweeter, and that Yahuwah will continue to baruch your household and continue to bring you into his truth. Once again, I am Mora Aliyah Yasharal, and I want you to remember to keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Bread Belief Ministries, this is the place where
The Torah does the body excellent.
Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.